This is a pretty chilling story from the world of healthcare. It's about a time when the very technology that was supposed to help, well, it created a dangerous and I mean devastating silence. Let's dive in. So, it all starts with this number. It's just staggering. Back in 2017, the UK's National Health Service, the NHS, realized that over 500,000 patient records had, well, they just vanished. Poof, gone into a digital black hole. We're talking about crucial letters, test results, cancer screenings, vital treatment plans that just never ever made it to where they were supposed to go. And this is what makes this whole thing so terrifying. See, this wasn't some big, loud system crash with alarms blaring and red lights flashing. Nope, it was the complete opposite. The failure was totally, utterly silent. The system just kept on chugging along like everything was perfectly fine, while all this critical information was being shoved into a corner. And in medicine, that kind of silence, it's about as dangerous as it gets.
The real-world consequences were, as you can imagine, severe. Behind every single one of those lost records was a real person. People whose cancer diagnoses were delayed, whose treatments were put on hold. The fallout was just immense. It kicked off a full-blown parliamentary inquiry and forced everyone to take a really hard look at the digital backbone of the entire health service. So this was way, way more than just an IT problem.
Which brings us to the big question, right? How on earth could a system designed specifically to deliver information, fail so badly without anyone noticing for years? To really get that, we actually have to rewind the clock a bit and see how we even got here in the first place. Yeah, the journey from old-school paper files to the digital records we have now, it's a story of huge ambition. But man, it is filled with some unexpected twists and turns. For decades, think about it. Patient information just lived in these big, bulky filing cabinets. Every hospital, every clinic was basically its own little island of information, a total silo. Then the 90s hit and the digital revolution started with relational databases. And that led to the boom of electronic health records, or EHRs, in the 2000s, which promised this amazing new era of connected, easy-to-access data for everyone. But, and here's the twist, these big EHR systems that promise to bring everything together, well, they often just ended up creating brand new digital silos. You had different systems that couldn't talk to each other, data was locked up in proprietary formats, and that dream of a single unified patient record, it stayed a dream. This created all this fragmentation, which, it turns out, is the perfect environment for critical stuff to just fall right through the cracks. And that brings us right back to the NHS incident. This whole fragmented system was the backdrop, but the specific cause? It was a single devastating little flaw hidden deep, deep in the code. The culprit has a name. It's called a silent logic failure. Okay, think of it like this. Imagine a typo in a recipe that tells you to use a cup of salt instead of a cup of sugar. The recipe still works, right? You follow the steps, you bake the cake, it produces something. But the result is obviously completely, horribly wrong. That's a silent failure. The system looks like it's working just fine, but it's making a critical mistake with every single thing it does. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this breaks down the fundamental misunderstanding. So when the database couldn't deliver a message, its programming just told it to archive it. That's it. To the machine, that was a completed task, mission accomplished. But the humans, the doctors, the nurses, they just assumed that no error message meant success. They thought, okay, cool, the message was delivered. And in that gap, right there, between the machine's logic and human assumption, that's where 500,000 records just disappeared. So what do we do with this? What's the takeaway? Well, this failure, as awful as it was, gave us some incredibly important lessons for anyone building technology, especially in a high-stakes world like healthcare. It really boils down to 4 key lessons. First, these systems have to be auditable. We need to be able to look under the hood and see exactly what they're doing. Second, and this is huge, we have to design systems to protect against the most dangerous threat, the silent failure. Third, the system's logic has to actually make sense to the people using it. And finally, maybe the most important lesson of all, we have to start treating data integrity as what it is, a core patient safety issue. So that leads us to the future, right? How do we move forward from this? How do we build systems that are not only powerful, but also responsible and, safe? It really all comes down to this one question. How do we build our databases so that they never, ever forget that there is a human being at the other end of every single line of code, every data point? How do we build systems that truly remember the patient? This quote just nails it. It's the fundamental shift in thinking that has to happen. Getting the data right isn't just a job for the IT department anymore. It's a fundamental responsibility of healthcare itself, just as critical as washing your hands or checking a patient's vital signs. In the end, this whole history of healthcare databases teaches us a really powerful lesson. Technology can be an absolutely incredible tool, for sure, but if we forget the human purpose behind it, we risk creating silence right where we need to be listening the most. Every single record is a part of someone's life, a part of their story. And that is why every single record matters.